Good day, everyone. My name is Julian Haresco, and I'm a senior in computer science who will be graduating this fall. Over the course of the past 8 months, COVID-19 has been the one constant throughout everyone's lives. This disease has caused international travel shutdowns and intense collaboration to limit and hopefully stop the spread of the virus. In the United States and other countries, various lockdowns and mandatory quarantines have been necessary from a health perspective, as social distancing and other measures are currently the best means to limit the spread. However, in the United States, this has come at a cost, as it has created an economic recession that has some social consequences as well. Today, for my final project, I hope to explore how quarantine and lockdowns have affected the United States middle class by discussing this class's background, intraclass dynamics, and discussing how it has changed during this time frame. Before I dive further into these topics, I want to introduce the concept of the collaborator class talked about by Penbuck in Chapter 7 of Inequality and Alternative Anthropology. According to Buck, the collaborator class is an intermediate group between the elite and ordinary people, who do much of the work of governing or of supervising and controlling workers. In other words, they are the people who help run large businesses and facilitate the means of getting the money of the public into the hands of the few. Furthermore, if we consider society as a three-tier system, with the overarching tiers being the impoverished, the middle class, and the elites, these roles would belong to the second tier. Connecting this concept to the United States, the collaborator class would appear at first glance to include the various managers and supervisors who help run corporate businesses like Target and McDonald's. However, the middle class within the United States is not as clear cut as this assumption. According to Matthew Desmond, a reporter at the New York Times, in America you become middle class by consuming. Therefore, the middle class in the United States is a title that is earned not through an award or a title, but through the amount of money you can earn and spend. Due to this dynamic, the middle class can also have a stratified system between lower and upper middle class based on how securely you are able to maintain one source of capital. The upper middle class are typically successful managers, supervisors, and other typical white collar jobs within industries like business or finance. Within the collaborator class, they can be perceived as the ones who are most effectively able to manage labor or provide services that are invaluable to making a surplus of goods to centralize wealth for the few. As a software engineer at a large tech company, I would thoroughly consider myself a member of the upper middle class. The average middle class citizen, however, could be working a typical blue collar job from 9 to 5 p.m. and in a normal situation is able to make a healthy living in the service industry or a job with manual labor. Despite these differences, though, when discussing small businesses, we see a symbiotic relationship between the groups as members in both classes are involved via managers, employees, or some other role like an investor. However, this relationship does not mean they were affected by the economic recession in the same ways. The upper middle class, for all intents and purposes, has largely been unaffected and has been able to easily manage quarantines and lockdowns. Personally, I have been able to spend time on internships and resting at home. From talking with my friend Kenny, he said lockdowns have given him a chance to really focus on his mental health. My parents also say it's a blessing because it has been years since my whole family has been under the same roof. Overall, I see the livelihoods of the upper middle class as not being affected and in some respects actually improving. Furthermore, employees at large corporations such as Target and Walmart have done comparatively well, as these businesses have the means and capital to continue paying their workers and actually remain open. At a surface level, these two instances make it appear the middle class as a whole is performing well. However, this luxury has not been something that has been given to small businesses. In May 2020, Emily Flitter at the New York Times, during a study on COVID's economic impact, reported nearly 66,000 small businesses closed permanently since the start of the pandemic. This number was in spite of government aid to help with the pandemic because extended lockdowns significantly lowered the amount of foot traffic and customers they get. Currently, there are more than 100,000 closed businesses, and with no government aid currently in place for the holidays, I fear this number will continue to grow. As I read more about these contrasting impacts, it is clear how the interclass dynamics of the collaborative class play out amidst the pandemic. The individuals who have been able to obtain jobs or roles that allow the elites and their incomes to thrive are cared for, while those who are a part of small businesses or are not in advantageous positions struggle. Essentially, this system continues to funnel the wealth of the many into the pockets of the few. In an area dominated by small businesses like Southern California, the social ramifications of this dynamic can be quite large. The most at risk establishments are businesses like restaurants, bars, barbershops, and other industries heavily reliant on foot traffic. Furthermore, keep in mind if the U.S. middle class status is associated with one's livelihood, then people's status within a stratified society is also at risk since if a business closes, it is gone. However, since the success of small businesses rely on interclass interactions, can this dynamic be changed or at least diminished? Also, if it could, then what would be the best way to do it? To help answer this question, I sought out my peers and family to get their perspectives and viewpoints about the topic. Over the course of discussions with friends and family, there were a variety of viewpoints presented. I believe my friend Poshi, who is a senior at Purdue, summed up the general sentiment the best with the statement, everyone has a responsibility to help their local community stay afloat amidst quarantine. However, when presented with the idea of encouraging people to go out to local businesses or finding local alternatives, I found the responses to be more reserved than I expected. My friend in Newport works at Microsoft mentioned the middle class has to continue injecting money into the economy, but their biggest responsibility is staying home, wearing a mask, being safe. Faster cases go away, the faster businesses can reopen, and the less money they will lose. Similarly, my mother and father are of the mindset go out and support local businesses, just be smart about it so you don't get sick. As I had more and more of these conversations, it became clear that everyone felt small businesses were a vital part of the economy and those with extra income play a vital role in sustaining it. However, the degree to which they encouraged participation was dependent both on financial means, in addition to one's health, and the risks they can logically take without putting themselves in a situation that are likely to contract COVID 19. My own views about this topic follow similar lines of thinking. As an individual with excess income in the future, I hope to do my part to support local businesses. However, I do believe it is ignorant to not be cognizant of the risk of going out in public, especially as cases rise. So, it is important to do what I can to support businesses while making sure it is done in a manner that is healthy. I think an important part of these conversations I have yet to highlight as well is the implications for the collaborative class and middle class interclass dynamics as a whole. For the upper middle class to continue acting as the collaborator class, they should only support small businesses because it aids to create more money available for the elites. However, during my conversations, there is a very compassionate aspect of their reasoning for spending money locally that underlines their reasoning. To some extent, it makes the collaborative class a two-way street for passing income between the elites to those below them, instead of them solely viewing the lower middle class as a resource for the elites. To begin wrapping up what we have talked about today, I want to revisit what I had asked earlier. Is it possible to change the middle class intra-class dynamics, and what would be the best way to do it? I think the conversations I have had clearly demonstrate it is possible to change the dynamics, and is already beginning as people are actively looking to support those around them. However, the best way to do it is a bit of a gray area, as a highly dependent on the individual and a variety of factors that are specific to each person's life. Regardless, I do believe this mindset also takes a step forward into changing what it means to be a part of the collaborative class, as it can help support everyone in the community, not just the elites. With that final thought, this has been Julian Haresco. I bid you a good day, and I wish you happy holidays. Thanks.